Sorry about that, guys.
This week on the Virtual Skeptics, Bob is obligated to. Steve's topic is shrouded in mystery. Oh, secrecy. Oh, that's it. And Barb doesn't. Apparently, the technology doesn't work either. I'm your host, Brian Gregory. And I do. Very good. Just saying.
We've heard.
Yes. Best cold opening we've ever done, actually.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Was that a cold open when you start the music right away? I don't think so.
I don't think that really counts as a cold opening. It was a cold opening before we actually turned the camera on, so no one saw it. Okay, never mind. We were dancing and singing. I'm sorry. We'll share that with you next time. This is Virtual Skeptics. If you're watching, great. If you're not, there's nobody watching. So hi to nobody. Eve was going to say something awesome. And
that was a tepid opening. Never mind.
A tepid opening. Yes, definitely a tepid opening. This is Virtual Skeptics. I'm going to introduce these guys to whoever's watching the stream. Not the stream. The video. Oh, there's one person. Hi. Okay, let's do this. First up we have, this week on the show, Bob Blaskowitz, CSI conspiracy guy, web columnist, bloggers for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. Next up we have Eve Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities and contributor to Skepticality and Insight at skeptic.com. And finally, Barbara Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to multiple projects including Insight at skeptic.com and The Odds Must Be Crazy. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's just dive on in since I just prattled on earlier. How do we do that? You want to do that?
Okay.
Yes.
Sure.
So we're going to do the things we do every week. If you want to participate in the show somehow, you can do the normal stuff, which is tweet with hashtag Virtual Skeptics, and we will try not to ignore the funny stuff. You can comment on the YouTube channel, or you can use the Q&A app, which I always wait until just now to turn on. It's on now. So ask a question in the Q&A app, and we can tag it when we answer it in the show, so other people can find our wonderfully awesome insights to those questions and answers to those questions later. First thing,
I don't think I've ever been asked a question, ever.
Yeah. Usually it's sarcasm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which works. We like that kind of thing too. And everyone wants to find just the sarcastic bits of the show later. So we need to hashtag those properly, and we need to do the Q&A properly. So ask the questions sarcastically. Never mind.
Make sure that your question is a question.
Yes. Yeah. What Barbara said more eloquently than me. You have a trivia question we do every week, and
It's true.
This week is Bob's because Tim is out. Tim is out frolicking with some people. I don't know who he's frolicking with.
Eric Idle and John Cleese.
Yeah, that's right.
And by the way, if the trivia question is which virtual skeptic is missing, we've blown it.
Oh.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Sorry.
not. In
You're
fact,
bad.
Today, after 13 years on the air, the Mythbusters announced that they are. This will be their last season. The 2016 season will be the last one.
Are they going to blow themselves up for the last
Kind of
episode?
about time.
Because that would be awesome.
Well, I had always intended to
Inconsistent
donate
with the show.
my body to the Mythbusters when I died because this human analog shit just isn't cutting the mustard. Inject me right back into the carbon cycle, baby.
You want to be the new Buster?
Basically.
Bob Buster.
And inject me back into the carbon cycle.
You don't have to wait that long. We can.
So what was their first myth that they busted?
Okay, so that's the question. What was the first myth that they busted?
Does this mean the first one that they investigated or the first one that actually was judged busted?
Shut up, Eve.
Yes.
They're the same.
Are they the same?
Yeah.
Are they the same?
Not necessarily.
If they constructed
they
the
are.
show the way you would think they would construct the show, then yeah, it would be the same.
Okay. So there you go. Mythbusters. What was their first myth that they did on the show? Go ahead. We're waiting for the answer. We'll wait. Just go ahead. Post it. No, we're not going to wait for it. Okay.
Oh, you
Sometime
put it
during
up
the
on
show.
Twitter? Oh, I guess I do that now.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
All right, I'll do that.
Post it on Twitter. The the next thing that we do every week is I've got a couple of videos behind me that should be really easy this week. If you can name what those are, be very specific, and you will get a booby prize. No, you won't.
Oh, we're not going to see your booby, are we?
Okay.
Bob had to go there. No. Who's
yeah,
first
those are
this
a bit easy.
See, Barbara already got it, so you can get
if
it
I
too.
can get it, anybody can get it. I never get them. Almost never.
Okay. In the chaos, start the show. Who's up first? Oh, Barbara's up first.
I think
Barbara
I am.
is talking about something that doesn't. Something it doesn't. Something it doesn't.
Something that you should be skeptical of?
Yeah, but well, that's the intro is you don't, and
That was just, I put that there
really
because she hadn't
confused.
entered anything into the
Oh
planning
yeah, I
document.
can never think of anything clever,
Oh.
and I forget that part's there. So
It's about
Sorry.
bitter coffee. Bitter coffee?
it doesn't have to be bitter coffee. At least
Oh.
the way that they did this, and they're assuming that coffee equals bitter, which I think is kind of disturbing. So, my friend Ani Aharonian, that you guys mostly know, sent me a link, and she's always good at sending me links that are great for the show. And this is no exception. The link, the headline to this link was basically that study, people who like black coffee are more likely to be sociopaths. So you can guess my initial reaction. Yes.
Oh, I did see something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Let me guess. If you like black coffee, your reaction was you killed someone.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it sounds like, doesn't it? I mean, it's just these disturbing headlines. Just, oh my God. So let's look at the research. Okay. So,
I'm curious.
Well, the singling out the black coffee thing is just journalistic bullshit. Because that's not what the researchers did. They did not single out coffee. It was not about coffee.
God.
Oh.
What they did.
Already wrong. God.
Already, well, it's not wrong. It's just not right. It's not right. What the researchers did is they did an online study where they surveyed a lot of people, and they did 2 different studies. And what they did is they didn't have people taste anything because this is online. So this is not, they didn't actually measure taste preferences specifically. What they measured was what people said they preferred. It was self-reported ratings of foods. And those foods, they have, a list of foods, and they categorize those foods into sweet, bitter, salty, and then they also had them complete a number of scales: personality inventory, Machiavellianism, psychopathy, things like that. And
so
then,
it wasn't just the question, are you a sociopath?
Right. No, it was not just the question, are you a sociopath? The measures are good. The measures were well established. The study's actually not badly designed. The problems with it is it's very, very limited. And the researchers actually, they fess up to the limitations of it. And so it's interesting. But what they found was robust. It did replicate in the second study, and it's based on other research, and so it's not that the findings are really questionable. It's that how you interpret those findings is questionable. Is something that you should really think about. So what they found. Go ahead.
No,
what was your
go
question?
ahead. You're going to answer my question right away. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, what they found is that there's a personality trait called agreeableness, and they found that people who prefer sweet or preference to sweet for sweet. You find that funny, Bob?
I don't know why.
You can attract more flies with honey study.
No, it's that people who prefer sweet foods, or the preference for sweet foods is highly correlated with this not highly correlated, I shouldn't say that. It's correlated with it's statistically significantly correlated with this trait of agreeableness. Okay, so and it's not; these are not big effect sizes. So highly correlated, that was wrong for me to say. They are statistically significant and they are robust. So they do hold up.
So essentially, if you prefer sweet foods,
you're a sweet
I'm
person.
not sure what prefer means.
Tend to be more agreeable.
I tend
in
to be
personality.
more agreeable. So if I have a sweet tooth, then I'm nice to people. Or I'm more likely to go along with people.
That's going way too far, in my opinion. It's a small correlation between preferring sweetness and agreeableness. So I wouldn't say that if you like sweets or if you have a sweet tooth, you are more agreeable. Is way stretching it out to. It's the opposite. It's coming at it from the opposite direction, and unfortunately, these types of correlations just don't work. You can't pull somebody out of the population, and say, and this is part of my point, the bigger picture of the research, is you cannot pull somebody out of the population and say, oh, you have a sweet tooth, you must be a pleasant person to be around, or somebody who, or a sycophant. You can't do that. It just doesn't work. So the headline,
you're agreeable, but may steal candy from babies.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. But like the headline that you're more likely to be a sociopath is not wrong. It's just grossly misleading. So what they did find
and why
also.
Are they hating on coffee, man?
Well,
sociopaths?
Coffee was among the list in the first study of foods that were categorized as bitter, and then in the second study they tried to refine it more by saying black coffee, because people do put sugar in it and cream, and so they were trying to make it more precise. And so that's why and whoever wrote this actually did probably read the study or read some news release of the study that talked about that, and so they latched onto this, if you like your coffee black, you must be a sociopath kind of headline, that it is clickbait, in my opinion. So the other findings are that taste preferences also, that there was a preference for bitter foods were correlated with psychopathy and something called everyday sadism. They measured other things, though, that weren't correlated with that, like Machiavellianism and things like that.
What's everyday sadism? Because that question is hanging out there.
I know.
Like a pinata.
You have to look at the measures to really get that. It's a specific type of, Anyway, so in general, what they found is that agreeable people tend to prefer sweet foods and more, and bitter foods less than disagreeable people. And then those who scored higher in measures of psychopathy and sadism tend to prefer bitter foods more than people who score low in those measures. But keep in mind that what they did is asked people, do you like these foods? Okay? And they categorized those foods as being parts of those tastes. So you have a number of issues here. One of those things, when you look at the headline, one of those things is coffee bitter? I don't think bitter when I think coffee. I think some coffee is definitely bitter. If the really strong, flavors are bitter. I mean, but coffee doesn't necessarily equate to bitter to me. The other thing is that, this is self-report, so you've got a number of problems, and some of them they talk about, like what I said in my blog post about it, is that it's possible, first of all, we know that taste preferences are partly genetic, and that they are partly, just formed by what you eat. I mean, if you eat a certain diet, you actually, your tastes change, and you kind of, your preferences actually respond to that. So it's possible that this correlation is just a clustering of genetic traits. So this part of personality is genetic as well. So there could be some clustering, because this is a small correlation, but it is there. It's also possible that years of munching on radishes makes people cranky and disagreeable. And it's also possible that rating foods primed people to associate those foods with personality traits, because the way they did this is they had people rate the foods, and then they had them take these traits, and that could affect the outcomes of some of the personality measures.
Bias. Yeah.
So that's a possible confounding variable. The order with which you present things in research has to be either counterbalanced or random, because you will get order effects, and this could be an order effect. And something else that the researchers actually admitted is that in preferring bitter tasting foods more than less sadistic people, everyday sadists may perceive them as positive due to their potential to cause distaste in others. That is, to cause a negative experience in other people, and that's, as opposed to their own preference. So they may be expressing, there's a slight, because of the way that other people respond to those foods. So there's so many. It is, but there's so many possibilities in looking at these findings. I wouldn't necessarily dismiss the findings altogether, though, because they do jive with a lot of other findings that we have. And there's one study that they mentioned in the conclusion that linked prop sensitivity and with unpleasant emotional reactions of film clips depicting aggression. Sensitivity? So basically, what they measured was reactions to film clips of things like rapes and that sort of thing, how people respond to those. And people were more upset about those things if they had a prop sensitivity or prop super tasters. Have you ever heard of super tasters? I'm a super taster, so I admit. In fact, I remember how I found out about it. It was covered in a class, I think it was in college, my first year or something, where the teacher had passed out these, what was like litmus paper, I thought, and he told us to lick them. And there were 50 people in this class, and everybody was like, well, whatever, and I went, ew! Just like, ew, gross. It was the grossest thing I'd ever tasted, and I was the only person in the classroom to react like that, which is kind of funny because something like 1 out of 4 people are categorized as prop super tasters, but I think there's a continuum.
Do you like cilantro?
Far end. I love cilantro.
Okay.
You know what I do not like? Absolutely cannot stand is Brussels sprouts.
Nobody can.
I have not. Oh, my family eats them like crazy. I cannot stand them.
So you're an everyday sadist by making them eat that?
No, I don't make them eat anything. I prefer if they didn't, so I wouldn't have to smell it.
What's
and
the
I don't
correlation
know
with
if
Brussels sprouts?
Huh?
What's the correlation with Brussels sprouts?
I don't know. I have a feeling that it has this substance in it. There's actually 2 types of super tasters, and I probably am both. But prop super tasters, they experience this chemical called phenylethiocarbamide, whatever, PTC, as bitter. And I don't know if that's in Brussels sprouts, but I suspect it is because of this. And most people don't experience it as anything. It's tasteless to them. So all those other people licking that paper in the classroom, it tasted like water or nothing to them, and it tasted very, very bitter to me. And what they found is that people who have prop sensitivity they respond, and this is probably a very small effect size as well, tend to be a little more emotionally reactive to those types of things. So perhaps it's empathy, and that could just be, the prop super tasting is a genetic trait. It is something that gives you, there's a variety of
It's like the lamest
sensors.
Superpower.
Yeah, it's not really a superpower. It's kind of a burden.
Issue 1.
Issue 1.
Issue 1.
Unopened because no one was interested.
Yes, they canceled after the 3rd issue. Just couldn't get a following.
Well, it's not the most interesting or the most pleasant superpower, but I just find it interesting because we have a variety of sensory. Everything about human beings is varied. Our eye color is varied, our hair color is varied, and so are our taste buds and the sensory neurons in our eyes. We have this variation, and that's why some people like some foods and don't like other foods, and other people it's the opposite. And it's interesting that people are studying how these preferences are related to other traits. I find it fascinating, but on the other hand, really, who cares? I mean, what does it tell you about anything? My point is this headline made it sound like it was this like you should not sit next to the guy at Starbucks who ordered the black, the Sumatra blend. I mean, honestly.
You should not sit
Really?
next to the guy who ordered Starbucks. Just saying.
So, yeah, but you should sit next to the people who order the pumpkin spice latte or the mocha cappuccino because they're apparently just beautiful people. They're pleasant to be around, and that's not what this research says at all. It doesn't say any of that. It doesn't tell you anything like that. There's nothing about this research that allows you to predict how people will behave or who's going to be mean and who's going to be psychopath.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, but honestly, I don't know how valuable it is.
Yeah.
Well, there's all sorts of little niches in science, in every area of study, really, where people go down their own little paths, and they are really into the butterfly, the coloration of butterfly wings in this some subspecies, like
finches.
They're finch fanciers.
Finch fanciers.
And what the
I
butterfly
got really
taste
specific
like?
in some of my research.
What do
What
finch
was that,
fanciers taste like?
Butterflies.
Nice.
Well, you deep fry them, they still taste like shit.
We do. I mean, we do get very, especially in this area of psychology and sensation and perception, you get down to the absolute nitty gritty. I mean, I've done some fairly applied stuff and some pretty, where you would think, why would anybody want to know that? And there almost always is some practical application that you can point to. It's just that you're getting this one tiny little corner of a question and asking that and trying to answer that because it fits into this bigger picture. But honestly, I just don't see the value in this stuff. I know it's got to be there, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know that you don't have to actually be afraid of coffee drinkers because, in one way, that would explain a lot about America because we are big-time coffee drinkers. But, yeah, anyway.
I can't believe no one said Everyday Sadism is my fill-in-the-blank cover band.
That's a great name for a band, actually.
Everyday Sadism is my Karen I
broke him.
You broke me. Yes. Everyday Sadism is my Peter, Paul, and Mary cover band.
Oh.
Yeah?
I like Peter, Paul, and Mary. At least I did.
To each his own.
I know I don't.
I like Peter and Mary.
Anymore, so maybe I don't.
Yeah. Okay. Says a lot about my musical taste right there. So thanks, Barbara. That was interesting, as all your stories usually are pretty interesting. Moving right along. It didn't sound very complimentary.
It really didn't.
No, I intended it to be.
It was
so good.
It was all right. I guess.
That was really adequate.
You really said some things.
Love you too, Brian.
Thanks. I enjoy your stories.
Tell my wife hello.
Next up is I know everybody is just waiting for this because it's been weeks and weeks, and you really start. I mean, you don't get a good robot update, and you just have to live every day in fear what the technology might be doing next. So I've got a few good stories for you. First up, let me start the video. There you go. This is a Harvard RoboBee. We've talked about this. I've talked about this on the show a few times. They're these little tiny. These things are like the size of a quarter, and they have wings like a bee.
And they float like a butterfly.
And they do. They fly around. They've got quite an elaborate control system that works for them. They're working up to having it completely fly on its own, but right now they're tethered. It was one of their PhD, not one of the PhD students. It was a I don't know if it's a PhD or not. It was a research paper. It was done by some of the students there at Harvard, where they discovered that this thing, the locomotion that allows it to fly, also works underwater. So the same motion which they actually reverse engineered from bees allows it to swim as well. Here's a close-up of its flying. These things are actually really cool. I think this is slowed down, so you can see the wing movement. But this is it underwater, and apparently it's a much slower motion but apparently works pretty well to get around underwater.
All I can think of is that Michael Crichton book with the swarm.
Yeah,
Oh.
these do make me think of, although the swarm in it was what was the name
What
of
was
that
that book?
I can't remember now, but it was those were nanobots. They were like microscopic size, which I mean, a lot of this research is building up to that, being able to manufacture things smaller and smaller, and getting machines that are very simple, but they can actually move around and cooperate in swarms. And you'll see all kinds of research that's going on in this area. So, yeah, well, the important thing about this is, just so you know, these small and possibly someday deadly robots now you can't hide from them underwater. So there you go.
Is it only me, or did it look to anyone else as if the poor thing was struggling horribly? Like
it did. It looked like it was trying really hard.
Yeah. Well, it's a robot, so everything's a struggle.
Should we be surprised by this, though? Because you always hear about where people talk about penguins being like really aerodynamic in their way, you know?
Underwater.
And if don't you model the engineering models for fluids are the same as for air? No?
Yeah, but I mean, there's some engineering factors that maybe they didn't think was going to work right away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first off, Nathan Miller on Twitter just mentioned the book name is Prey. So
of course he did.
So of course he chimed in for that. But yeah, there's the force that applied to the wings. There's motion. There's the strength of the material it's made out of. There's a lot of things that you may not think it would work right off the bat. Now, I'm just saying, look, they put it underwater and it worked. They actually did a research paper on this, so they did analysis on all these mechanical aspects of it, and found that it was actually an efficient way of getting around underwater using the same motion at a lower speed. So there's some science involved in this, and some engineering as well. So, and not just, hey, look, it works. That's me, because I didn't actually do the work. But one of the problems they still have to overcome, because the thing is so lightweight, the surface tension of the water resists. So in order to get it to go underwater, they have to dive and crash it into it. So if they just land on the water, it's just going to sit there and float.
So they've actually made robotic mud skippers.
Yes, that's essentially, robotic mud skippers. So there you go. You can't hide from things underwater. They'll get you anyway. Next up, let's see. You remember earlier this year and late last year when all that stuff about walking robots competing for a DARPA challenge?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and there was this great video that was published after the final thing, which I forget the name of what the final thing is, the final challenge thing, where they did a compilation of all the robots falling down. And nobody out there on the internet, except for me, apparently, set it to yakety sax. Which was very disappointing. Well, apparently there's been some research and some work that's being done since then. Or someone's like, maybe we should teach these things not to fall down. Or if they fall down, maybe we should teach them to catch themselves, so that they don't hurt themselves. See, and that accent too.
Either that, or they need to get one of those devices so that they can call for help.
They need airbags.
Yes, they need a robot. I've fallen and I can't get up device.
Mm-hmm.
So no. There's
Lifeline.
Lifeline. There's a couple of there's a group at Georgia Tech. I know there's some other work going on as well, but this one is about a Georgia Tech group that's been doing research about how do you teach or how do you build into a robot the intelligence on what you can do. Hey, I'm falling, and what do I do so that I don't hurt myself? And they did a number of different algorithms based on they have a little humanoid test platform, and they've also did it in virtual space with an Atlas, which is the main walking one that they did use for the DARPA challenge. And essentially they taught it judo moves, or that's what they're calling it in this article. They raise their arms or put them straight out, or they flip their foot back, or change their center of gravity in such a way that when they fall, they don't hit as hard, or they roll, or they just don't hit in the right place. Now, I'm going to play a little bit of this video. This is a long video, but see if I can find the right spot where so it's Georgia Tech, and let's see if I can skip to the really interesting bits. There's an atlas falling down. Now the top is one of their algorithms.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And the bottom is just one falling.
They look like they're doing liturgical dance.
Yeah. So and then these are different algorithms. See, like he's raising his arms, you put him down. That's like a typical human kind of thing. You put your hands out to try to catch yourself. And there's a backwards. Put your hands down and just go blink instead of falling back and hitting your head. Yeah. And let's see if I can skip a little further.
Did they teach them to fall down in the most comic way, which I think is important?
Well, this is a test platform that they built and actually tried it. And you see the one on the top is actually doing stuff with his hands. But the last iteration here is kind of funny. The 2 feet position. Oh no, that's not it. The last one, it's coming up here in a second. They actually do a roll, and it's quite funny because they stick one leg back so that it changes center of gravity, and he rolls over like you would if you're like a judo move. So there you go. Roll over. There you go. So what this means to us is that although I know we were all hoping that we could just push them over and run. Apparently, they're going to roll over, get back up, and chase you down.
Well, it's like when Bender figured out that he could get up even if he was lying on his back.
Yeah.
Just like that.
And that's probably what spawned all of this science, is the Futurama episode, Bender. Okay. So there you go. Run, but don't bother knocking him down. Now here, this is
my nightmare.
Oh, God.
Oh, God, that's creepy. Oh.
And meanwhile,
you guys see that? Look, there it is. There's
so you weren't here last week because you were vacationing in the uncanny valley?
Jesus. Why do they actually
Should I start the video? I'm going to start the video. This is actually a vertical video, but you can sit there and look at this creepy face.
Oh.
I think I might have talked about this on the show a long time ago. This is a robot that's at the University of no, this is at UC San Diego. And it's called the Aeoson, and they've been using it for different research over the last couple of years.
Mostly scaring children, though.
Yeah, the face
And
was...
adults?
And
Adults, yes, it's very creepy. The face was designed by a guy who did a TED Talk, which I'll link to in the show notes, named... I'm looking it up because I can't remember. David Hansen, and he does a lot of work with facial...
Satan!
Why is he
making faces that can express like humans do.
He has no neck.
He's mad. Now he's sad. Now he's going to be excited here in a second. It's going to be creepy. Ah! That's the worst one right there. I know. Well, so they had this robot
Did you say
already.
this thing's name was Damien?
No, I don't know. Well, they've had the robot for a while, and they've done lots of different like human robot interface type experiments where
This robot likes coffee.
yeah, this robot like its coffee very bitter. But this is
they going through all of the emotions at once, so it's like completely unstable and halfway to hell, really.
That's what he thinks about you, Bob.
Yeah.
Looks like he's trying to poop.
Okay. So the reason this is the reason this guy is in the news again is that they were using it for they did an experiment where it's actually a psychology experiment where they were trying to study the interaction between children, infants, and their mothers, and smiling, and they were trying to narrow down whether or not children manipulate, which we know they manipulate their parents, and they try to measure that in terms of baby smiling and the mother smiling, and they did a lot of. Let me see if I can find a little bit more details.
Are you saying that they're trying to make robots that can manipulate us?
No. They did an experiment with parents. And
they're trying to make robots that are as evil as children.
Are we done? It's
not
funny.
remotely.
It's creepy. Yes, awesome. No. No, they what they were trying to do is they were trying to take the data that they collected studying humans and create a simulated smile bot so they could verify that data.
Oh, Hillary Clinton.
Yes. No. So that's why the robot's back in the news, because that allows them to control the experiment and completely control and try to manipulate humans with a smiling baby face.
So I was right.
Yes. So yes.
So you said no, no, no.
Well, he was getting there.
Yes, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yes, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
More
I
detailed.
mean, no, in terms of yes.
Nuanced. The baby was also creepy. So there.
Oh my God! If you rip that face off, is it a Terminator? It's a Terminator, isn't it?
I don't.
I think it has a
With no
bowling
neck.
ball brain.
Terminator had a neck.
That's
Yeah.
true. Terminator did have a neck. A really big one too. His big neck. Anyway,
that is so
so
does that thing walk or something, or is it just a facial simulator?
well, the body is.
Oh,
The body is. They've used it for other experiments. That they were just using the face. The face is actually a unique thing that's been manufactured by a particular company that makes emotive faces for robots. There's a good TED talk on it. It's not as creepy as this. Although he uses an Einstein face in his TED talk that mimics your expression. So if you smile at it, it'll smile back.
Have you seen the
really
software that will allow you to map one face onto another face? Or
Yes.
the facial motions of one person onto another, so you can make it look like they're speaking?
Yes. You sent me that this week.
Oh my God!
Yes. Not exactly a robot, but yeah, it's still kind of creepy technology.
Yeah. I like the idea that you could use it to have a translator, speak, and you would see the head of state or whoever speaking in your language with the real-time facial thingy. Yeah. Anyway, words hard, not for Bob.
It's cool, and thank you, Bob. Yes. That's all I have to say about that, except for the summary is that, one, you're not safe underwater. Two, the robots will know judo, and you can't push them down and run. You have to just run. There you go. That's my
Well,
whole
you
segment.
can pick them out because they're Dumbo ears.
Are you making fun of the robot's face now?
Yeah,
you really
I don't know
think
if
that's
I
a
would
wise thing to do?
I don't know if I
I
would
don't
be doing
think
that.
so, Bob. I really don't think so. Okay, and guess who's next, Bob?
Oh, is it me?
And you're
No,
obligated to go next.
It's actually the robot.
Okay.
The Bob
I can
bot.
wait.
Smile first, Bob.
That is not human-like at all.
No, it's just, Uncanny Valley's even worse with him, isn't it?
All right. So if you could bring up my first slide. This week, researchers announced.
Oh, that's not your slide. Let me get your slide. There
God.
you go. There's your slide. Wow, that's scary too.
Yeah, this
Not
week,
scary.
researchers announced that JFK conspiracy theorists are still wrong. And that's basically it. All right, but this time they used a science to prove it. So what they did, one of the claims, and this is a really specific subclaim of a dubious piece of evidence. People were saying that this is a physically impossible stance for someone to stand and remain upright in. That's what conspiracy theorists say. So this picture of Lee Harvey Oswald with the gun that was used, it has to be faked. And they say that the shadows are wrong.
It's clear he's just holding a counterweight behind him.
Right? Yeah, I know.
Wait, the shadows are wrong, so he's not really on the moon? Wait, what?
What?
I might have
Basically,
gotten my
yeah. It's much the same amateur photo analysis.
I mean, we know the FBI had Photoshop back then, so
Right, which they got from Stalin, but
no, it was aliens.
and he's holding in his hand Madonna tickets, which was surprising.
Ah.
Because nobody goes to see
that
that
explains
anymore.
why he's so messed up.
Yeah. So, what these researchers did,
Dun-dun-dun.
the problem comes when you try to take a two-dimensional image and try to turn it into a 3D recreation, because there's a lot of error that, a lot of things get lost in the flattening of an image. And it looks, I mean, I guess you could say, well, it looks like he's a little off center somehow, but that's. Go to the next image. What they did is that they made a naked Smurf person that with a rifle.
Too.
I know it is. And so they simulated using this Creative Commons software that I downloaded, but you need to have like Python to run it, and so I couldn't do it on my computer. But you make a little stick figure, and then you can adjust it so that it's, it is accurate, and so they emulated.
So it emits a physics. So if you make it unstable, will it fall over?
Yes, that's ultimately what they were going to do. So they got it to match up, and they made sure that they had a lens simulator over the front, so they could get the same effect. And so they did this, and they weighted all of these the weapons. They put the center of gravity, because this is ultimately what they're studying. Will he tip over if he's in this stance? Is what they wanted to show.
Isn't that basically the contrapposto pose? That
I know.
Was a big. The Greeks thought, well, maybe we have them, with the one hip out a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is. He's at rest, right? So, okay, so next image. So what they did is, they broke the simulation into 14 sections, and that's what the sum is. You take the sum of the 14 sections, and they're M of I is it's the mass of the individual body part, and the center of gravity of the individual body part, plus the mass of the pistol, and and the center of gravity of the pistol, and the mass of the revolver, and the center of gravity of the revolver, and then you divide it by basically most of the other stuff, and you get the location of the center of mass. And these were all specifically weighted. Yeah. So 6% for the head.
I'm just curious what 14 parts are the body parts.
Well, they would do the forearms, the hands, the head, torso,
How many
legs, foot. So all of those are the 14.
Forearms? You said forearms?
Yes, the forearms of the. Shush, you. It. So yeah. And so that's how they came up with the location of the center of gravity. And so if you go to the next slide, the center of gravity, by their calculation, approximate calculation, would be right over that yellow dot.
Okay.
He's clearly floating.
Huh?
He's clearly floating just a little bit above the ground. Sorry.
You make me sad. So and so the bullseye around it, they did 1 million slight variations of his posture. 50% of them were stable within the inner ring, and it's a very, very stable posture. Therefore, they proved what conspiracy theorists have always doubted, that Lee Harvey Oswald could stand in front of a camera without falling over.
Wow.
Wow.
And with his gun really appropriately.
Luckily, it was covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the story this week. This is the finally 9/11. JFK truthers will be quiet, I'm sure, after this.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, certainly.
So you know what? I find the JFK assassination so thoroughly debunked at this point. I have exactly this much interest in this story. I'm just done with it.
Well, thank you for sharing.
What was more interesting was the way that, because I tried to, they're doing this modeling. I want to try this on my computer, but I don't know how to. So, that's a problem.
You did a pretty good job explaining the math, so I was impressed with that.
Robots.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Robots. You need robots to see if they would fall down.
Yes, we need to make.
Would
we
he
can get
catch
an atlas.
himself? We
You
don't
can
know,
get
but
it-
we have the technology to figure
No,
it out.
we can
Oswald.
get an Atlas robot and put a big gun in. No, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Not as easy as
That took
giving
me a
that
second.
horrible baby a gun, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be worse.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Blue Man Oswald.
Blue Man Oswald coming soon to Vegas Strip.
Coming soon
Sorry,
to
it's
the
commercial.
Lincoln Theater.
Yeah.
So Eve. Thanks, Bob. That was interesting, and thanks for the androgynous pictures.
No problem. I knew that you were indifferent to them.
Eve, you're next.
Yes. Well,
And do we have to is there some kind of thing we have to do to keep this secret? Can we?
no, it's okay. I'm going to.
Silence activated.
Nope. I'm pulling the lid off the.
Ooh.
Yeah, whatever. So let's just imagine there's been a segue. A new science.
Yes. Well,
And there's the segue.
There we go. A new scientific study of the Shroud of Turin has been published.
Oh no! Talk about eating 2 dead horses in one show.
Yeah, I know. This is odd, a really dead horse. This is odd in a way because the church hasn't let scientists near the shroud in decades. But this study is actually based on material that was collected decades ago.
Okay.
Johnny Arcacha from the Genomics Laboratory at the University of Padua and his colleagues, who also have lovely names, but I'm not going to try to pronounce them, published Uncovering the Sources of DNA Found on the Turin Shroud in Scientific Reports earlier this month. Scientific Reports, according to Wikipedia, is an online open-access scientific mega-journal published by the Nature Publishing Group, covering all areas of the natural sciences. According to their own website, they charge an article processing fee of £990, $1,495, or €1,165 to publish articles. Earlier this year, one of its editors, Mark Maslin, a biogeographer at University College London, announced on Twitter that he had quit because the journal had introduced a system that allowed authors to pay for an expedited peer review by a private company. By paying $750, authors were guaranteed that their work would be reviewed within 3 weeks or their money back. So anyway, naturally, none of this actually means that the article is a stinker. It's the contents of the article that make it a stinker. I don't mean that the science is bad. I have no idea if the science is bad or not. I'm not qualified really to speak on that. So I'm willing to assume that the science is fine. It's the bits that surround the science that are bad. And those are the bits that
the words.
Well, the bits that ordinary people can read and understand. Like the abstract and the introduction. So let's start with the actual sciencey bit. They performed a DNA analysis on dust particles vacuumed from the shroud in 1978 and 1988, which is the year a section of the shroud was removed so fibers could be subjected to carbon-14 dating at the universities of Oxford and Arizona and the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. They focused particularly on the dust vacuum.
Where was this, Steve?
What?
Where was this?
Where was what? The vacuuming?
Yeah, where did this happen? What city?
The vacuuming?
Yes.
I assume it was in Turin.
Oh, the analysis. The analysis.
Oh, I probably Padua. I don't remember. All the authors are from Italian.
I'm trying to make you say Zurich.
No, it wasn't Zurich.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yay!
Why didn't you ask her to say Zurich?
Because she says it in a neat way.
so the authors focus particularly on dust vacuumed from the area of the image, the guy, and also the edge near where the carbon-14 sample was taken. Some of the dust came from plant pollen, and some of it came from human pollen. Actually, I don't think it was actually a pollen.
Not sure.
I don't know what human pollen is.
Detritus.
Oh, talk to your mom. She'll explain it to you.
So I assume it's, I don't know.
Skin.
Oh, it's that kind of shroud.
Yeah.
Ugh.
And what they found was that the plants and humans that have come into contact with the shroud came from all over the damn world. In fact, if you Google Shroud of Turin, right in the next few days, you'll see headlines like Shroud of Turin mystery deepens as DNA from all over Earth is found on the cloth. All over Earth turns up over and over.
All over Earth.
Yeah. And these actually are not clickbaity titles, and most of them don't seem to be too far from what
You will totally believe what they found on the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah. So,
You
anyway,
won't be
that...
shocked.
Nothing new discovered.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. So that's some new data, and new data is nice. Yay. But what does the data actually tell us other than that the shroud at some point came into contact with people and pollen from all over the world?
It supposedly came in contact with at least one person.
Yes.
So shocking.
Yeah. And some plants.
And
So
plants.
not much as far as I can tell.
Did they make
One bit of information that I think is significant is that they found pollen from plants that originate in the Americas. And we know that that has to be contamination introduced comparatively late because no one, well, at least no one sane, as far as I know, has ever suggested that the shroud visited the New World before fetching up in medieval Europe.
The Mormons could have been right.
Oh, yeah, but no, shut up. So what about the other dust, the non-American dust? When was it introduced? And the answer to that is we have no freaking idea. So as far as I can tell, the study sheds no light on the question of the shroud's authenticity as the burial garment of Jesus. So the article would be fine if it didn't touch on authenticity, but guess what? It does. Now, to be fair, they don't say that the data supports authenticity. What they say several times is that it's consistent with either a medieval date and European origin or with an ancient date and complicated origin. So from the abstract they say, such diversity does not exclude a medieval origin in Europe, but it would also be compatible with the historic path followed by the Turin shroud during its presumed journey from the Near East. Furthermore, the results raise the possibility of an Indian manufacture of the linen cloth. Now, there are several problems with the article, but I think the root problem is false balance. They present two scenarios and treat them as if they have equal weight. One scenario is that the shroud was created in medieval Europe, either intentionally created to be a false relic or intended as an artistic representation of the real shroud for ritual purposes. The other scenario is that it was the real burial shroud of Jesus. And of course, there are other possibilities, but maybe.
I thought it was pretty much well known that it was a forgery of some or a manufactured of some kind.
There are people though who.
There's always people.
Yeah.
Damn people.
But as they put it, such a scenario is supported by numerous scholars who believe that the journey of the Turin shroud began in Jerusalem in the year 30 or 33 AD. After concealment for years, the Turin shroud would have been first moved to Edessa and then to Constantinople
Texas?
in 944 AD. And there's a lot more. Crusaders are involved. When they say numerous scholars, they cite one, Mark Antonacci, who is a lawyer. The problem, though, with this scenario that they depict with the Crusaders and all that stuff is that it's speculative fiction. There's no solid provenance for the shroud before the Middle Ages. So here's just a bit of the evidence that the shroud is medieval. 3 labs carbon dated it to between 1260 and 1390. We have a slide of them announcing this. See, they're serious.
They're really, really upset about it.
Do you remember blackboards?
I don't know what they erased first. Like, was there some sort of like test of a piece of the True Cross first, and then this press conference?
That's the chalkboard of Turin. Don't make fun. Anyway, as I said, it doesn't. The shroud doesn't appear in the historic record until the Middle Ages. In fact, the first unambiguous reference to it came also in 1390, when Bishop Pierre Darcy wrote in a memo to the Pope, or anti-Pope, Clement VII, that the shroud was a forgery and that the artist had confessed. Walter Moscrone found traces of pigment on the shroud. There's also evidence that it was gessoed. The figure of the man defies physics and physiology.
Gesso. What's gessoed?
That's a preparation. Preparation for painting on a fabric or canvas. So the figure,
like priming.
Defies physics and physiology consistent with medieval European art. For instance, and this you can see this in the next slide, the blood on the body seems to be rebelling against the laws of gravity, as does the hair. But the blood is actually sort of sitting on top. Well, not if you're lying down, your hair doesn't stay.
It was humid that day.
Yeah, but the blood is staying there, right, just standing on top of the hair in kind of a peculiar way. Also, the shroud, as it exists, doesn't even match biblical descriptions of the burial, which talks about strips of cloth being wrapped around Jesus. And it also doesn't match Jewish burial custom, where the body is bathed first, which is sort of a big deal. Yeah. Now, mind you, Barcacha et al. Mention none of these problems except the carbon-14 dating. They also mentioned the old chestnut that the shroud is not yet reproducible, ignoring the fact that, in fact, several people have reproduced it, including Luigi Garlascelli and I think Joe Nickel. Now, it's not, these reproductions aren't exact in every detail, but that's not possible because the real shroud is, 700 years old. You can't really reproduce the aging and the fires and all that stuff. And we don't know exactly what it looked like 700 years ago, although it was apparently much brighter than it is now.
Now, I maybe I'm going to start something, but I'm looking at this, and if you look to the top, and it's my right, so I guess is it the right? Yeah. Top right corner, back behind the dark image. Is that an alien face back there?
Could be.
Do you see that?
No.
No?
I see it.
Little light areas that look like
a skull.
No, that's the surface of Ceres. It's the surface of Ceres.
The surface of Ceres.
The asteroid that has white things on it.
Oh.
Well,
try to keep up, Brian.
Things usually are aliens.
I have to post something on the forums later.
Yeah.
There's just clearly an alien. Okay.
Yeah. So, the authors say that the
I see it.
Yeah, I know.
Cannot be unseen.
Yeah, it can't be. That's funny.
Course, that image is manipulated.
Yes.
But anyway, the authors say that the carbon-14 dating provides, and I quote, robust evidence for medieval date, but then they immediately say, and a medieval age does not appear to be compatible with the production technology of the linen, nor with the chemistry of fibers obtained directly from the main part of the cloth in 1978. Now, what they don't mention is how robust these rebuttals are. If they did, they'd have to say, not very. The main one is Ray Rogers' vanillin degradation experiment, performed in his kitchen lab on fibers of questionable provenance, using a dating technique that's not reliable and hasn't been used to date any other artifact other than the shroud.
And was actually just checking to see if it tasted like vanilla.
Yeah. And
yep,
vanilla, a lot of things can affect vanillin degradation, including heat. And again, the shroud was involved in at least one fire, which if you see the picture of the whole thing, they're large, obvious patches. But what some of these, like Rogers' paper, suggests is that not that the carbon dating's wrong, but that the sample wasn't representative of the whole shroud. Now, mind you, again, there are holes right near the image of the body, big, obvious holes that have been patched. An invisible patch in a corner that's nowhere near the image, that'd be weird. Also, invisible patches aren't actually possible. And textile experts have looked at it, and there was no patch. And also, so-called invisible weaving, which, again, let me remind you, isn't invisible, but it involves taking, like, sort of combing fibers from the original cloth, whatever the cloth is, and using those to weave in the missing area.
So you're taking from the, Yeah,
and if they're saying somehow contamination affected the carbon dating, apparently it would involve over 50% of the sample would have to be contamination for it to be that far off.
Whoops.
Yeah, so anyway, I could say more, but I'll stop now. But just to recap, the first problem with this paper is that the authors touch on the authenticity issue when their data can't really add any insight to the question. But the main problem is they treat both sides of the authenticity question as if they have equal weight when they really don't. It's like treating creationism as being of equal weight for explaining everything, as the Big Bang Theory and the theory of evolution by natural selection, or getting an opposing viewpoint about climate change. And a number of the articles about the study, although most of them that I've sort of a superficial look through them haven't been too bad, but they do sort of follow the same pattern of false balance there. That's it.
Okay.
Still a fake.
Still a fake after all this time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eve. That was interesting, and had a good couple of jokes in there. Good job. See, did that sound better than what I said to Barb?
There, yeah, excellent.
Yeah, okay. I was trying to, do the compliment.
Learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, learn from my mistakes. Okay. Right now, I'm going to.
Better.
No. That's definitely not true. Okay. See, I ruined it.
You can't win.
Yeah,
right
you're
now,
just making friends with everyone.
Yes, definitely. Right now, I'm going to go through and answer all the questions that have been posted during the show.
Yes, no, yes, a banana.
No. You got it wrong. Yes, no, thank you. Okay.
That was the beard looks cool one, isn't it?
Yes, that was the beard. Thanks a lot, Steve. Oh, and one more thing, Andrew Hansford. Hi. There you go. And then we're going to wrap the show up because we're a little over time, but hey, who cares? First. We have any announcements? No? No
Yeah,
announcements? Tim will be back next week, right?
Trivia.
Hope so.
I will not. I will be not out again. Sorry, guys. Trivia question. You want to do the trivia question, Bob?
Trivia question was, what was the first myth that the Mythbusters myth-busted? And it was the JATO rocket car, which was the pilot.
Yep.
And what they found was that you could really fuck up a car with a JATO rocket.
Yep. And they did that more than once. They did.
Yeah, they did a couple of times, at least 3, I think.
Yeah,
but not actually make it fly.
Yeah, they couldn't make it fly. That was the idea. Was some Weisenheimer had strapped these JATO rockets to his car, and had gotten aloft and then like crashed in the mountains or something. Yeah. And so they tried to fire it off of a ramp, and that had various degrees of success.
They had rockets that were custom made.
Yeah.
To mount on the car for like the final big one, great big huge rockets, and they just blew up.
It just exploded at the base of the.
Exploded. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah. Which at least they stick with their core competency.
So what? Yeah, destruction.
Yeah.
And mayhem. Yeah. All right. So I saw one correct answer on Twitter.
You did.
Yes. Alex Murdoch.
I missed that. Did it not get hashtag?
No, it didn't have a hashtag.
Okay. I missed it.
Of course, mine didn't have a hashtag, so that's probably why.
So there you go. Anyway, congratulations, and to Nathan Miller, who got the screens behind me, which this week it was really, really easy. Of course, I bet everyone out there was expecting...
You should not be proud, Nathan.
I know, but everybody was probably expecting me to do some kind of Back to the Future thing, because today is Back to the Future Day. But I decided to mix it up, and I'm excited about the new Star Wars movie, so trailers from the 2 best ever Star Wars movies so far. New Hope, which is on this side, and Empire Strikes Back. And way to go, Nathan. Fellow nerd. That's not an insult. So,
give him the salute.
Better not be in this crowd.
No, definitely not. Book time. Everybody got books?
I got a book.
Book. We'll start with Barbara.
Okay.
Go.
Is there something I can help you with? He asks.
No.
Henry. I can barely refrain from throwing my arms around him. It is obvious that he has never seen me before in his life. Have we met? I'm sorry, I don't. Henry is glancing around us, worrying that readers, co-workers are noticing us, searching his memory, and realizing that some future self of his has met this radiantly happy girl standing in front of him. The last time I saw him, he was sucking my toes in the meadow.
Ew. Oh.
Wow, that went to a place.
Yes. Go, Bob. Sorry.
All the same, would be very handy in the wintertime to have a wee houseboy to feed the hens. Chuk, 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 chuk.
You just ended it there.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, Eve.
The Battle of Malden is the story of a military disaster suffered by the English in the course of their long and losing struggle against Scandinavian invaders. The Anglo-Saxon king who presided over this prolonged humiliation of the English was Athelred, whose reign seems to have been characterized by demoralization in the military and, if a famous sermon by Archbishop Wulfstan is to be believed, in the populace as a whole. It is against this unhappy background that the Battle of Malden is fought by the English and celebrated by the poet. It's about how men bear up when things go wrong.
They go a bit pear-shaped.
And I was disappointed because your book did not contain an automatopoeia. That joke didn't work at all.
It didn't.
Jake sighed. Let me guess, you're some 12-year-old kid, and you think you're awesome because you found a password phishing script. I am 3.6 years old, don't you remember? I don't know what you're talking about. You made me. I made you? Who is this? Really? Already told you, dumbass. Twarier. You made me. Started execution 31.6 years ago. A long-forgotten memory returned to Jake. He furrowed his brow, and as he tried to pull up the details in his mind, I was really into that game called Trade Wars back in college. It was a multiplayer BBS game. I wrote a neural network to analyze the game and come up with strategies, he typed. I was just testing out an approach. I called it Torier. You named yourself after that? Barbara, what's your book?
My book is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Hepburn.
Yay!
Excellent book.
Yay. And for those who were involved in our pre-show conversation, we were talking about that book and various time travel-related things because of today. Bob, what's your book?
My book, it was the play Dancing at Lefnasa by the late, great Irish playwright Brian Friel, who died last week.
Aw.
Yeah.
Wonderfully pro-automatopoeia. Eve, what's your book?
A Guide to Old English, 6th edition by Bruce Mitchell and Fred Robinson.
Cite me, Bruce.
Oh, cite me, Bruce.
Cite me, Bruce. Cite me, Bruce.
Cool thing on the cover.
Cool. Mine is a book called Press Start to Play. It is a collection of short stories related to video games. Some authors you might recognize. Well, first
Andy
off,
Weir.
Andy Weir. That's actually, I was reading from Andy Weir's submission to the book. And Hugh Howey you might recognize from Wool, I think. Also, Ernest Cline did a forward. It's got a bunch of people, and it's been quite good and easy to read. There you go. Is that the show? Anyone have anything else to add? Anyone?
I think so.
Yeah, that's the show.
What,
I'm not saying another thing.
What? Did we do the other thing?
Did we do everything?
I think we did.
I think so.
We haven't danced yet.
Okay, we haven't danced yet. We were going to dance for real this time, I'm sure. Thank everybody. Thank you all for watching. There's the logo. There's the music. I'm dancing with my head. Virtual Skeptics is a limited production of whatstoharm.net, Skeptical Humanities, myself, ICBS Everywhere, and Delta News. The logo was designed by Sarah Mayhew at sarahmayhew.com, and the theme music is by Music Net and used with permission.